这个故事如果你听起来不累，那么你的听力水平在生活中是完全够用的。要持续提升英文，记得点击订阅按钮。我们开始吧。
A man built his life high above the ground, but one small fall showed everyone what really matters. Long ago, people looked up at the sky and felt wonder. The sky was wide, bright, and far away. It stood for dreams, for power, for things no hand could touch. When someone spoke in big ideas but had no real action, people said he was up in the clouds. His words sounded nice, but they did not help anyone standing on the ground. Life for most people was not like that. Farmers woke before the sun. Workers used their hands until they hurt. Their world was soil, water, wood, and stone. They knew the weight of real things. They knew that crops grow from dirt, not from dreams. Over time, these people shaped a new kind of praise. When they met someone who spoke clearly, acted honestly, and did not pretend to be above others, they called that person down to earth. At first, the phrase moved slowly, almost like a quiet whisper. In early English writing, you can see hints of this idea. Writers spoke about people who stayed close to real life, who did not chase empty pride. They admired those who could stand with both rich and poor and speak the same way to all. Being down to earth was not about being simple-minded. It was about being real in a world that often rewarded show. Then life began to change. Towns grew into cities. Tall buildings reached into the sky. Some people began to live far from the ground, both in body and in mind. They wore fine clothes, spoke in long words, and forgot the feel of dirt on their hands. The gap between people became easy to see. On one side were those who lived high and spoke big. On the other side were those who stayed close to real work and real life. This is where the phrase found its full power. It became more than a kind word. It became a quiet line between truth and show. There was once a young man named Eli who wanted to be admired. He lived in a growing city full of noise and light. He watched rich men speak in long speeches and saw how people clapped for them. He thought the secret was in the words. So he began to copy them. He used long, hard sentences. He spoke about big plans. He tried to sound important. At first, some people listened. But after a while, they stopped. His words felt empty. They did not match his life. He spoke of hard work, but his hands were soft. He spoke of care, but he did not listen. People walked away. One day, Eli had to travel out of the city. His road took him through a wide field where an old farmer was working alone. The farmer moved slowly but with care. Every step had a reason. Eli stopped to rest and began to talk, using the same big words he always used. The farmer looked at him and smiled, but said very little. When Eli finished, The farmer asked a simple question. Have you ever planted anything with your own hands? Eli paused. He had not. The farmer nodded and picked up a handful of soil. He placed it in Eli's hand. The dirt was cool and heavy. It felt real in a way Eli could not explain. The farmer spoke again, slowly. Words are like seeds. If they do not touch the ground, they do not grow. Something changed in that moment. Eli felt the weight of the soil and the truth in those simple words. For the first time, he saw the gap between how he spoke and how he lived. Eli stayed for a few days. He helped with small tasks. He carried water. He planted seeds. He listened more than he spoke. Each day, his words grew shorter, but they felt stronger. They matched what he did. When he returned to the city, people noticed the change. He no longer tried to sound big. He spoke in clear, simple ways. He listened before he answered. He talked about real things, things he had done and seen. This time, people stayed. They trusted him. They began to say something new about Eli. They said he was down to earth. The phrase spread because stories like this were everywhere. People were tired of empty talk. They wanted something they could feel, something they could trust. Down to earth became a quiet kind of respect. It was not loud, but it lasted. As years passed, the phrase crossed oceans and entered many parts of life. Teachers used it for students who spoke with honesty. Leaders were praised for it when they stayed close to the people. Friends valued it more than charm or style. In a world that kept reaching higher and higher, the phrase pulled people back to what was real. Now the world has changed again. Screens glow day and night. People share perfect moments, bright smiles, and big success. It is easy to feel like everyone else is living in the sky while you stand alone on the ground. But then you meet someone different. Someone who speaks like they mean it. Someone who shares not just wins, but also loss and doubt. Someone who does not try to be above you. In that moment, you feel it without needing a name. That feeling has a name. It is down to earth. It is the sound of truth in a noisy world. It is the weight of real life in a time of show. It is the quiet power of staying close to who you are, even when everything around you tries to lift you into something false. The phrase has lived for so long because it answers a deep need. People do not just want to be impressed. They want to feel safe. They want to feel understood. And that only comes from what is real. So when you speak, when you share, when you try to be seen, there is one thing worth thinking about. Are your words floating in the clouds? Or do they have their feet on the ground?
能以非母语者的身份专注学习到现在，这本身就是很棒的进步。真诚感谢你的观看。 如果你觉得本期内容实用，点赞或留言让我知道你的想法，这对我持续创作非常重要。我们下期见。